Shalom Alahayakun. It's very good to be here sharing with you guys today. I decided to do a screen record rather than go on a live stream because, well, first of all, I'm sitting in my pajamas. And second of all, I just kind of want to focus on the things that I'm sharing. Sometimes I get distracted on the live streams, but I know that there are those of you that appreciate the interaction as well. So trying to find the balance of both here. I've had many discussions on Facebook, especially this morning, as it really feels like it's time to quote-unquote shake the tree. And that includes theology, that includes translations of the original works that were penned in Hebrew and Aramaic and then changed into Greek and then Latin and English. I've shared some things recently that on Facebook, and if you guys aren't there, most everything that I do share is actually on my private page, Carrie Husband, and sometimes I share it to the Stand, our Facebook page. Sometimes I don't. Just kind of depends. Some of the things that I do share can shake a lot of foundation, and I'd rather just be it on my private personal page, the things that I'm discovering, some of the things that I'm being shook with. That is all beautiful on the end result. One of the biggest shakings that I had was that the early church had become, well, I can't say the early church, I would say it this way. The Jewish people had become Hellenized. And Hellenized means that they were in the Greek culture, they learned the Greek language, and all their writings became Greek, which means the synagogues that were being erected were teaching the Septuagint, also known, if you read in Aramaic writings, the law as Namosa, which is a Greek word, which would be the Greek law coming from the Greek writings of the Septuagint. Blew my mind when I found that out. Then it made a whole lot more sense to me why Yeshua in Matthew uses the word oreta, because oreta is a permutation for the word Torah. Torah means the covenant of light. The covenant of light, how to flow as water to reveal the Shekinah glory. And again, it was all meant to be taken allegorically, not literally. That's why he said the kingdom is within. He was always pointing within. And again, that's on the writings, and I know that's a narrative, but from what I have seen through the languages, through the letters themselves, it is all about the inward work. It has nothing to do with the outside. Then when we get to Oreta, with a permutation for Torah, we literally see the word light written. And back then, light, they didn't have light bulbs. Light equated with fire. Think of the fiery sun. Think of sunlight. Light is inward illumination. Completely different than even some of the concepts that we've gathered today of what we think it is versus what it was like 2,000 years ago. When you look at the word the way, it's orka. And orka is a compounded word. It's or, light, and then cha, which is the absolute form of the word life. Chaya, salvation. Orka, the way of salvation, the way of light, to become one with the absolute. All connected to Ureta, permutation for Torah, because in that day and age, they did not have the New Testament. I know that might be shocking for some of you to hear. Maybe not. They did not have the New Testament. All they had access to was the Septuagint. So here comes Yeshua, and he's teaching the Hebrew letters. He knew information about the Hebrew Torah as Oreta, the law of one, in which he was sharing so that they could know what the way is, Orcha, the way of light, life, love, spirit, negentropy, not entropic by design. The self-fire, the illuminated message, the Nakash message, the seraphic message. And he learned it in Qumran. Have some verses, and one particularly that I'm going to share with you regarding the Qumran and the priesthood that was there, also known through Greek, and which was then transliterated into English as the Sadducees. And I'm going to show you something here that blew my mind. and why I'm coming to you today with all of these revelations that have happened within the last week. So let's go dig into a scripture. Here we are looking at Matthew 22:23. And as you can see in translation here, I actually just chose the King James Version here. That's the one that's in the purple. And then also the transliteration into back engineering back into Hebrew. And there's a reason why I did this. Because Hebrew and Aramaic are really essentially the same language. One is very masculine in design and one is very feminine in design. The Aramaic, the writing up here, is very feminine. You can even see in the style it's very curvy, whereas the Hebrew is very block oriented. And that's intentional because the curvy style has to do with fire and the block style has to do with light, the line and the circle. And when you combine the two of those, you can see it as a natural state of being in nature called the Fibonacci sequencing or the golden mean ratio. Which, if we were to translate that into phi and reduce it in toroidal math, reduction math, we get a 9. 9 is completion. So, and having said all of that, kind of went out of my way a little bit, but let's take a look and see what is going on here. This really blew my mind. First of all, we have something here. It says in the same day, right? So we don't really think of much when we see the translation as the same day. Same day came to him. All right. Same day they came to him. However, I find it interesting that bet he right there does not mean in him. It means in her. In her. And that has to do with the he being on the suffix. For grammatical purposes, they actually changed it to a him because in the day when these writings came about, it was a heavy patriarchy. The suppression of women was very extreme, and it wouldn't have worked well in the King James Version to actually write it the way it was intended to be, in her. The same day they came to her. That should cause you to pause for a moment. When we take a look at it, in the inward revelation of what is saying to us, within build through the revelation of the shadow, the divine feminine energy, so that you can connect to your shadow, aka your own darkness. And it will be through the process of in her. Now notice something else that I find really fascinating. And you would never, ever, ever, ever see this in translated. The word day here, normally when day is written, it's iom. But the mistake that we make in our Greco-Roman linear mindset is that we have past, present, and future. These writings with the Eastern thought, through Eastern thought, everything is in the now tense because that's all we have is now. There is no yesterday, there is tomorrow. All we have is the moment that we are in. So this is actually saying something here much, much, much greater to what is being through our Greco-Roman influence mind of linear thinking can't really grasp a hold of what they were trying to convey. But the combination of the Yod and the Vav, the first two letters here, is a frequency that is every luminous manifestation. It's also connected to the sun and the moon. So every luminous manifestation, again, this is all allegory, it's pointing to within. So every luminous manifestation that will deal with your mem, which is a letter that is feminine in nature, but in this place, it is also a letter that means chaos. So every luminous manifestation that comes to your chaos within, and this is the part that I really want to draw attention to, this was added. The Aleph was added. So the things that are being revealed to us about your chaos is so that you can unify them. And I already shared with you here. Build yourself in within through the twin energies that are going to reveal to you your shadow so you can connect to it. It will become fully illuminated, fully manifested, the chaos that you're dealing with, so that you can unify it as one. Interesting. Karav, to draw near. What do we have here? This is a shortened form of a word that means to call out. To call out, okay? So there's a calling out here, a compression that is supposed to be taking within the circle of time to raise us up, Resh, out of our poor and destitute place, to be a first fruit. And first fruit is directly connected to a double portion of the inheritance. And inheritance actually goes back to the language, but that's something for another day and another teaching. And we have a word here that means to make large, to increase in size. So this is a word that when we come together, it means to draw near or to come near for any reason. So it could be hostile intent or to draw near. But again, there is a voice that is calling out, that is wanting to raise you up, to expand you, to make you bigger. The only way that's going to happen is if you connect your ethereal to your material, your higher self to your lower self, by connecting to your shadow. We can see a theme that is arising from these first three words here. Now, this is what blew me away when I saw this. I mean, all of this, yes, I've understood the process because I've applied the writings and I've done the work right here, the work in the deed of my hand, by going within and taking the power of these languages to change. So this wasn't new to me at all. Totally comprehended. What I had never looked up before, and I do not know why I didn't, but I guess it wasn't time. The word Zadokia, translated as Sadducees, a Greek word. Let me slow that down a little bit here, and maybe some of you are connecting this. Zadokia. Okay, let me say something a little bit different. Malki Zedik. Zaduk. Zadakia. Melchizedek. Some of you might say Melchizedek. Some of you might say Melchizedek. Guess what? We have it right here. I want to show you something that happens through Aramaic and Greek. Now, I know that this is all, these are all Hebrew words here, and it might seem confusing. This is the transliteration into the Hebrew font from the Aramaic writings. I'm more familiar with the Hebrew. I've spent much time, many hours within the Hebrew letters, and that's where I teach from. And here's the Aramaic counterpart right here. Most people do not know the Aramaic letters. And so what I'm saying here, this is the Aramaic word seen up here. And the Hebrew counterpart is right here. The Zadukim. Zadik. That is the word for righteousness. So here we have the Sadducees. This is what has been given to us. And because of the poorly translated works, to get us off the scent of what was really going on, and you're going to see here in a minute, probably blow you away, but blew me away. The day came to him, the Sadducees. The same day came to him the Sadducees. Well, we just established that they are the righteous ones, the Zadukim, the Zadukia. Okay, so Zadukia, written in Aramaic, shows that they have the power of oneness unity. They had become unified with the quantum realm, with the creator of all source, of the great spirit, however you want to say it. They connected through work that they did within the hidden aspects of themselves, which made them righteous. Guess what that means? That means there's no shadow in their turning. There is no shadow. That's why they're called righteous. In right turning, they turn their shadow. But they had to do the work. And again, as I've shared recently, maybe not so much here on YouTube, I am going to share something recent that I wrote on Facebook. I'll be sharing it within a day or two, about the power of the language. There's much more going on here than what we've been led to be because of our Hellenization that actually is hidden through the English language. But make no mistake, the Romans did conquer the entire world. So when we take a look, so the Zadokia, the righteous ones, were the Sadducees. This was the priesthood known as the Priesthood of Light, the Priesthood of Fire. And they came saying to him, that there is no resurrection. And they asked him, I'm not going into the next verse. We're going to end it here on this verse because of what is being shared. First of all, the priesthood of light were the righteous ones. They came speaking. They came to say that there is no resurrection. That is not what is going on. Not at all. This is crazy for me when I see this. And this is why I'm also putting out a warning for those of you who use the Qumran site for your Hebrew or an Aramaic digging. It only will take you so far because it still had a heavy influence of patriarchy, as well as not going against the grain as to what we have been taught through indoctrination through the Church of Rome and the narrative that they created. Let me show you this. Okay, so we already, the Zadokia, speak, say, announce, affirm. Here we have 2 and 4, which is also towards. Okay, when this was written, understand that in this day, in this writing, whoever wrote it, some say that Philo wrote it, some could say that Mattiyahu himself wrote it. They had the code, they knew what they were doing, they were knowing what they were writing because they had been taught by Yeshua, the oral tradition. So nothing was happenstance. The root of this word is a lamed, but look what happened. They added the hey on top of it. So this is a word that means behold. It has to do with revelation. It's on the suffix side. It has to do with the divine feminine energy, the things that are hidden, the shadow, even the esoteric, if you want to say that. I'm not afraid of these words anymore, and I will share and use them because I'm not afraid of being called a heretic or that what I say is heresy. Church of Rome is coming down, and all that goes with it, everything that can be shaken is being shook right now, and I'm hoping to be an agent of change to do that exact same thing. So we have 2 and towards. The lamed has to do with instruction and teaching. It is the shepherding staff. So here the Zadokia are coming with their shepherding staff in order to reveal something of the divine feminine frequency. Behold, there is something that is being conveyed. Now, this is where the translation really gets mucked up quite a bit. They translated it as no. And that's what we see right here. They translated it as no. And when I look at the Peshitta online from the Dakrana website, they are saying that Aleph Yod Tav means is not. Now, I can see where they are going with this because there's a Hebrew word that is Lamed Aleph. Lamed Aleph, that means no. But that really is the teaching and instructions in the way of one. And if the no is there, it means that you haven't learned the way of one yet, and so you need to be instructed in how to get there to be unified. Again, something else for another day to teach upon. I actually shared about that before. Aleph Yod Tav, in the essence of its being, means is, are, there are. That's it. That's what it means. And I know from the coding of how this has been written, whenever you see the Aleph, and you see the Yod, and you see the Tav, the Aleph Tav is an idiom for the language. So instead of saying the instructions that come within the language of Hebrew itself, all they would have to do is say the Ait, or the Aith, meaning it was a summary, a way of saying the Aleph through the Tav, all the letters of the sacred languages, and then with the Yod in the middle of it, means that you work with in the center of your being to deliver yourself from your separation. It's a little symbol that means, it means power, means and direction that is found on the inside. So this, as the root, this shows that there are teachings that will bring about power so you can complete the covenant. I've shared in the past, if you guys have not seen it, there's a video called, it has to do with Bereshit. So just search on my channel for covenant. You will see it. It looks like a pastel background and it has Bereshit in it, the beginning word. It'll explain to you what the covenant is all about. So here we have teachings that are going to reveal the hidden, that's going to deal with your shadow, that's going to bring forth the divine feminine energy, that is going to instruct you in the way of having power over your heart, within your heart, to complete your journey into life. where life and death become unified. So see, they translated it as no, when it means something completely different. Like, can you guys stop and slow down for just a minute with me and hear that? These teachings are life. They are life. Not there is no resurrection. They are resurrection. This word chaya, the reason why I even found this verse is because there's, questions that people have been asking me about salvation. What is it to be saved? And all these kind of things. And, the crucified Christ. And there is no other name to be saved. And so I decided to do a little research on it. And I came to this verse. This is salvation. Regeneration. That's literally what this means. Salvation and regeneration. From what? Death. So that you can become unified. It is literally the power over death that has to do with something that's in your heart, because it's the center of the word. And then it says, for those who inquire. So the Sadducees here were not coming. The Sadducees, the Zadoks, who instructed Yeshua in the way, were not coming and asking questions of him and counteracting what he was saying. That's what the writings in the translations want you to think. No, they were coming to affirm that the teachings and the way, they were the righteous priesthood, the priesthood of light, the Zadoks, aka Melchizedek's sovereigns. They had their literally own nation that wasn't bowing to Rome. They were coming and confirming the words of Yeshua and confirming the way. Here is the root of the word for hell. Question, ask. So those who have questions that are seeking, please understand that even the word hell, which was brought forward to us, is from a word that means to seek and to inquire, to ask. Now, what is encoded in here that you wouldn't see, Sheen and then Aleph Lamed. Aleph Lamed is the word we get for God. This is the singular form for God. Aluhi. Aluhi. All right? Why am I stressing this? Because we have the fire of God is there for anybody who comes to seek and ask. They will find it. And the answer is, once you connect to the divine feminine energy within in the hidden place and transmute all of the shadows, you will be given power. The fire of God. But you must first be willing to ask questions and realize that you are in hell. Hell is just a place when you don't have answers. And anybody that has been dealing with their shadow work, that has to deal with triggers of not having peace, the answer is coming through the instruction of the sacred languages, the Hebrew and the Aramaic writings, not the Greek. Because remember, the Pharisees had the Greek Septuagint. They had Namosa. The Sadducees, the priesthood of light and righteousness, who had been illuminated, had the Hebrew language. They were familiar. They spoke in Aramaic. They had both. They were fully illuminated in the masculine and the feminine, having unified them as one. I and my Father are one. The Pharisees, Greek Septuagint, Greek law, Namosa, were in the dark. That is why they were called the priesthood of dark. They were teaching through the Namosa. And this is why Yeshua was so against the Pharisees. It wasn't because they were teaching extra laws. No, they were teaching Namosa. They were teaching the Greek Septuagint, which kept everyone in the dark. And then what do we get? We get the Greek Septuagint translated into English. And then we get the Aramaic translated into Greek, into Latin, and into English. And you wonder why there's been no power. We've been given a form of godliness that denies its power. And it started in the Common Era with the Greek Septuagint. Oh, there's so much here. This was a big find for me. And I'm done sharing. That's all I wanted to do right now. I just need to pause breathe through it, because this was a big champagne moment for me, and I knew I needed to record this so I could show you this. Not because I need to prove anything. The truth stands on its own. But I do want us to begin to question things, because the tree is being shook. It is time, and I am going to shake the tree and continue to do so until we see this Greco-Roman influence come tumbling down the seat of Caesar, so that we can be fully released, walking in our divine sovereign authority, the inheritance that are given to the firstborn, the firstfruits, who have the double portion. Masculine and feminine, light and fire, return to our natural state of being, Adam Kadmon. The second Adam, the life-giving spirit while in the flesh. Shalom Alahayaku and Haleva.